Recently was my husband's friend's birthday party. It was a bigger party and all my husband's friends and their wives were there. No kids. One woman that I'm friendly with was annoyed with her husband, and joked, "Men. If they didn't get us off, why would we keep them?" And she laughed. I awkwardly laughed, but I guess looked uncomfortable. She asked me what was up, and she pointed out that I made a weird face. I said, "I've just never had an orgasm before, so I guess I couldn't relate." Almost a dozen people looked at me when I said that. It was super awkward. The wife then awkwardly asked, "Is everything okay down there?" And I said, "Yeah, just have never had anyone try, I guess." For the next 10 minutes all my husband's friends took turns insulting him in various ways. Many women talked about how they'd never be married to someone who didn't get the job done. My husband made us leave early. When we got home he lectured me about how I humiliated him. I pointed out that she asked, and I have a tendency to be honest. He's been really upset the last several days, and he keeps saying he can't talk to his friends because they now think badly of him. AITA for being honest here? Edit, I've brought the issue up countless times in the past. He tells me that it's not important / not a big deal that he doesn't get me off. Since it's not that important, I just don't see why I have to hide it like some kind of dirty secret.
Hey there, let's really dive into this cringeworthy scenario you found yourself in at the birthday bash. I mean, picture this, you're at this big party, everyone's having a good time, and then out of nowhere, your friend drops that bomb about men and orgasms. It's like the record scratches, and suddenly all eyes are on you. Talk about awkward, right? So there you are, trying to play it cool, but your face betrays you, and your friend calls you out on it. Now you're put on the spot, and in a split-second decision, you spill the beans about never having had an orgasm. Cue the collective gasps and awkward stares from everyone in the room. It's like a scene from a cringeworthy sitcom. But wait, it gets worse. Before you can even process what just happened, the whole vibe shifts, and it's like your husband is the star of a roast nobody signed up for. His friends start taking jabs at him, making him the butt of every joke. Meanwhile, you're sinking lower and lower in your seat, wishing you could disappear into thin air. Finally, you and your husband make a swift exit, but the damage is done. He's fuming, and understandably so. I mean, who wouldn't be upset about having their personal business aired out for all to hear? It's like the ultimate betrayal of privacy, and it's no wonder he's feeling humiliated and angry. As for you, it's like a double whammy of embarrassment. Not only did you unwittingly spill your intimate secret to a room full of people, but now you're also left to deal with the fallout. It's enough to make you want to crawl into a hole and never come out. But hey, here's the silver lining, we all make mistakes, especially in those high-pressure social situations. And while it's natural to feel embarrassed about what went down, it's also an opportunity for growth. Maybe it's time to reevaluate how you handle sensitive topics in public settings and set some boundaries for yourself. And as for your husband, well, it might take some time for him to cool down and see things from your perspective. In the meantime, maybe use this as a catalyst for some much-needed communication about your relationship and what you both need to feel supported and respected. So yeah, it's been a rough ride, but hey, you'll get through it. And who knows, maybe one day you'll look back on this whole debacle and laugh, or maybe just cringe even harder. Let's hear what other people feels, leave your comment below also what you think of this. Emil Gustav. Holy shit. You're so sad, he tells me that it's not important / not a big deal that he doesn't get me off. That's nuts. I would feel like a failure is a lover. I'm sorry. Ich pixem. I was in my mid-20s before I had my first orgasm. Prior to that, I would be in the mood, sometimes hypersexually, but could just never get there. I took matters into my own hands. Self-exploration is a great way to find out what you like. Not every body will react the same way, so take your time, shop for toys, find a good porn, or even use your imagination, and let your hands do the talking. Or, you could be ace, and that's fine too. Your husband though, when I read how little he cares about your pleasure, if that's worth saving. Also, like you said, if it's not a big deal, then he shouldn't have any problem with other people knowing about it. NBD, right? I think his apathy towards you is more concerning than his inability to pleasure you, Imo. Yes Hornberger. You just don't know how high to set the bar until you experience it. I can't orgasm from penetration and had multiple long-term partners insisted that meant it was illogical for them to try to do anything for my pleasure, since it started with my first boyfriend as a teen and continued until I met my current boyfriend at 32, and they were nice guys otherwise. I always assumed it was my fault and that other women didn't actually need effort from a partner to orgasm, so wanting it made me high maintenance. I'm talking 5+ otherwise awesome dudes who insisted, no one else I've dated needed foreplay, must be a you problem, when it's all you've ever known, and again the guy isn't selfish otherwise, it's easy to believe it's all your own fault. Empty Night 8. So, to my understanding, that's not always true. I have had partners who, due to being antidepressants or other issues, could not get off. For them, putting emphasis on them getting off actually made sex stressful and painful because it was putting pressure on them they couldn't achieve. What I will say is that communicating with your partner and making their pleasure a priority is paramount for a quality sex life. The women in question couldn't get off, or could not reliably and did not want it to be a focus of sex, so instead we worked towards what they did want prioritized from sex, which varied from person to person. Basically, just like everything else in sex and relationships, there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution other than just communicating and caring about your partner. I'm a fan of the phrase, at any given moment in a relationship, someone is putting in more effort. The good relationships are the ones where both people are trying to be that person. Raven Lunatic. She needs to learn how to get herself off so she can tell her partner what she likes. With that said, honey, with your edit, your husband sounds exactly like my ex. Wham bam, thank you ma'am. You need to put your foot down and ask him to please you or decide if this the life you want. Once you have one, you are not going to be happy with what you are not getting. Your husband deserves to be humiliated. He needs to step up and let his friends help in that area. Their teasing may make him get off the pot. Ricky_Roland. Literally made my GF cry the other day because I cared about her having one. Threw me off for a minute till she explained. She's never had one with a person before, so I opened up the lines of communication and asked her what things worked and what didn't, how exactly does she make herself orgasm on her own so I can emulate it, etc. etc. She broke down crying after that, telling me that nobody's ever cared like this before. Blew my mind. How can you not want to make your partner orgasm? Or at least feel as good as possible? Whale to Cochamp. My wife was entirely against receiving oral but also could not orgasm from penetration or manual stimulation. She had been with a few guys before me, but I was a virgin, so I was probably even a little too focused on her. The problem we had was that she also never pleased herself, so she really didn't know what worked. This really made things tough for a while because I was inexperienced, so I honestly just sucked or would come way too fast, and she would be yearning for more but unsure/uncomfortable with more. I always sort of knew that maybe oral was the key, but she was uncomfortable with it, so I respected that and never went for it. Well, then one night junior year of college we had been drinking considerably and, if I remember correctly, little dude was not complying. She was frustrated because we couldn't have sex, but also probably because at this point she had been sexually active for years without orgasm. I can't even imagine. I was frustrated because I was turned on but at a loss for what else to do for her. We were passionately making out, but I could feel the pressure of, well, what the hell next? I tell you what I did next. I put my head down between her legs, looked up at her and said, "Can I please do this?" To which she replied something I probably shouldn't right here, and within minutes she was grinding her way to her first orgasm on my face. Turns out that also turned me on incredibly, so little man overcame his inebriation and we had a glorious session afterward. I often remember that night to this day. Ever since then, sex to us literally means me eating her out and then us having sex. It's what works for her/us, and so that's what she gets. It turns out she really gets off on super gentle teasing, something that just doesn't work well with a dick or fingers most of the time. Individual OK 4973. Edited 8 mo ago. I'm right here with you. My high school BF couldn't make me orgasm, and instead of trying to figure out how, he took it out on me. It put this huge strain on our relationship, and I started faking it to avoid his moody/cold attitude. Then, I figured my inability to orgasm with subsequent partners must be my fault, too. The media never showed struggles in the area of female pleasure, until recently, thankfully. It wasn't until my current partner actually asked me what I wanted and actively sought my pleasure that I realized, oh, I can orgasm during sex. P.S. Some amazing books related to this topic. Pleasure Activism by Adrienne Marie Brown. Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. Deleted user. I think you should examine your relationship and decide if you want to remain married to this person. Obviously we aren't there to see all interactions, but here is what I got out of your post. Your husband has never given you an orgasm. Even more importantly than number one, he doesn't think this matters. You made a decision to publicly embarrass him for being inconsiderate of your sexual needs. These are not the behaviors of a loving couple in a partnership. Marriage counseling might be a good idea. Barely lucky. Nta. It took me a long time to get an orgasm too, and this wasn't my fault. Men always prioritized their own pleasure over mine. Sex should be enjoyable for both people, even if you haven't had an orgasm. Sex can still be enjoyable, and if you're with someone long enough, eventually you should do the enjoyable things for a long enough duration to result in orgasm. This man isn't making an effort for his wife to enjoy sex because it's not important to him. This is what he literally said to her. If it wasn't important to her, it would be a different issue. OP, vibrators can come in the mail. It doesn't have to be dick-shaped, a bullet or egg-shaped one make do the trick. Unk 214. I was going to say, she knew this would embarrass him. And he's ignoring her needs, and she's clearly frustrated. This doesn't sound like a happy marriage. Sounds like, I married the first person I met, marriage. I would rather punch myself in the balls than embarrass my significant other like that. If there is an issue, we can argue about it in private. OP, imagine if he told everyone in the party he doesn't find you attractive. You wouldn't be a happy camper, would you? Darjean Zen 7. You're married to a man who doesn't care if you orgasm during sex. It's not important, all that matters is that he gets off. He should be embarrassed. He should feel like complete shit. He's shown his friends that he's a crappy husband who uses his wife like fleshlight. I don't know him, and I think pretty badly of him. So should you. NTA. So masturbating is a turnoff for you. Okay. Some people do not understand that, but it's a good way to know your body and what you like. But the biggest condemnation is in the comments where you say you've enjoyed sex with men that were not your husband. That's a big oof. He's a bad partner. You don't even enjoy sex with him. I'm so sorry. That's awful. Sell me your Mad account. The OP said they never had an orgasm in their life. Does that sound like someone who would be an engaging and exciting sexual partner? There's 100 comments in here calling the husband all sorts of names, but what do y'all expect him to do? His wife is so uninterested in sex that she's never had an orgasm. She has such a lack of curiosity that she has never even masturbated to orgasm. She doesn't even like touching herself. There's 2 unfulfilled people in that marriage. And we can blame the husband for not trying hard enough, but I think at some point the guy understandably gave up. How could he possibly get her in the mood to let go of her inhibitions enough to even begin the process of bringing her to an orgasm? In her mind, it's just a concept. She doesn't know how to even let her husband know he's on the right track. How could she? So instead of concluding that the husband is a man who doesn't care about his wife's desires, I think it's far more likely that the guy has already tried everything he knows and got nowhere. So he gave up trying.